Alright guys, I'm going to talk to you guys about your final business report for your guys' chalk lab. You guys will be working on this today and tomorrow with Miss Nelson. I'm going to go through each of the bullets for you guys and then kind of show you guys some different things I'm going to be using up here for you guys to collect your class data and whatnot, and how to collect your data to begin with. So if you guys take a look at your final business report, okay, these are the bullets that you guys need for that. If you haven't already, if you guys look at your fourth main bullet point there, you guys will see that you guys, it says 3 data tables, all include proper units. For this one, you guys are just going to use 2 data tables. Okay. The main thing that you guys are trying to get out of this is one of your learning targets and success criteria is that you guys can calculate percent yield, and that you guys can take that percent yield and factor it into this whole idea of manufacturing and what it takes to run a business like this. Okay, so what you guys will see is you guys will just do 2 data reports for this. I want you guys, if you haven't already, to cross out this second sub-bullet point right here. Okay, you guys will not be collecting data within your guys' class period, just because we didn't have enough groups for everyone to complete all 9 reactions. So you guys will just be doing 2 data tables. One that has your original data table, okay, for just you and your partner, and then the final one will be your guys' class data table that looks something like this, except you guys will refine it and make it look nice. Okay, you guys won't need to put names of other partners and other groups. Okay, you guys will just have averages for the 9 reactants, and I'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, back to your guys' first data point though, is you guys will rewrite your balanced equation for the reaction that you've performed. On your guys' business proposal, you had your 9 possible reactions, assuming you guys included that. You guys are just going to write your guys' complete reactions. Some of you guys didn't write reactions correctly, so make sure you guys check what I wrote on that for to finish your guys' final. Okay. The next one you guys will have is the final policy procedure used to perform your reaction. You will also need to turn in a hard copy of your original proposal procedure with handwritten edits, as well as the edited proposal that I handed back to you guys. So when you're all done with this, you guys will print off your final business report, and then you guys will staple your guys' rough draft and my rough draft to it as well. That way I can see that you guys made changes on your rough draft. When you guys went through your procedure, you should have been writing things you changed, things you added, and then also the copy that Elena, or Mrs. Nelson, excuse me, is going to hand back to you guys. Right now, you guys will be able to see the changes that I suggested for you. So I should be able to see both of those changes reflected in your guys' final business report. Okay. These should be proof of edits made for your final procedure. Your final procedure should also include your materials. Okay. At this point, I'm going to give you guys a second to go back and weigh your materials. Before you guys get up, though, what I want you to do is you guys will grab your 3 trials. Okay. Hopefully, you guys labeled them all well. When I went through and sorted them by class period, you guys look like you did this all pretty well. 3rd periods, your guys' is on a lunch tray. 4th periods, your guys' is still in the incubator. And 5th periods is also on a lunch tray. I even sorted them so you guys don't have to root through other people's and possibly spill theirs. What you guys will do is you guys will weigh your 3 samples and record your data. This will not be data that you guys are going to put in your final thing. The main data that I want on your guys' final report is your guys' percent yield. So you guys will just record it so you can do the calculations. So what you guys will do is go back, weigh your data. You guys can throw your chalk and your filter paper away after you guys are sure you've gotten a good mass. And then what you guys will do is you guys will take those. Those would be your experimental yields. Okay. You guys will take those, whatever your masses are, for trial 1, 2, and 3. And you guys will go ahead and calculate percent yields for that. So remember, for percent yield, you guys are taking your experimental value and dividing by your theoretical. Okay, and then timesing that by 100. Okay, go 2 decimal points, please. So at the end of this, you guys should have a data table that has your trials, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and then your percent yield for trial 1, your percent yield for trial 2, your percent yield for trial 3, and then an average. We'll talk more about that here in a second. Ms. Nelson, if you could go ahead and pause the video. Guys, go ahead and weigh your guys' chalk. Throw it out when you're done. You guys only need about 3 minutes to do this. You do not need goggles and aprons. Go. All right, guys, so that's your how you guys get your data for that. So if we look on this, you guys will see your third bullet point there is the calculations used to determine the experimental yield, theoretical yield, and percent yield for your reaction. So let's talk about this really quick. In your guys' final business report, you should have a section that says calculations. Okay? Because I said you guys don't need a data table for the stuff we just talked about before we paused, you guys will, however, need to show some data for that. So what you guys will do is you'll go ahead and under your calculations, you guys are going to have maybe 3 bullets that say trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. Okay? What you guys will do is you'll record your mass. I would love to be able to ask you guys questions right now, but since that's not possible, that mass is going to be your experimental yield. Okay? So what you guys will do is you'll write your experimental, and you'll tell me your mass. Okay? We know that our percent yield is calculated by taking your experimental yield, which you guys just calculated. Show your calculations for that. Remember, you guys will be taking the mass of your filter paper and your product and subtracting just your filter paper. You guys are going to want to show that as well in your guys' calculations section. Remember, I can't grade your guys' final answers, but I can grade your work. So that is where I want you guys to show your work. So show me that. That'll be equal to your experimental yield. And then when you guys are going to do your percent yield part, again, you'll have trial 1, trial 2, trial 3. You guys will take your experimental yield divided by your theoretical yield, and you'll need to show all the work for this in your Word document or whatever you guys are using. Times it by 1,000. Again, give 2 decimal points, please. Okay? Show me the work for all of those. Let's talk about theoretical yield for a second. Again, I wish I could ask you guys questions, but since you're not actually sitting in my classroom right now and I'm talking to myself like a crazy person, let's just talk about it. So we've got theoretical yield. Back when you guys did your business proposal, we had a section in your business proposal for calculations. Okay? We calculated how much reactant to use based on the premise that you guys needed to make 1 gram of chalk. Okay, so if you guys look back at those stoichiometric calculations we did, our given that we started with was 1 gram of CaCO3. And then from there we calculated how many grams, or moles rather, of each reactant we needed to use. Okay, assuming we did our calculations right, which I know we did, okay, you guys found out that you needed 0.00099 moles. 0.00999 moles of each reactant, which we put into our molarity equation and figured out how many milliliters of solution was in 0.00999 moles. Okay. With that being said, if you guys mix the correct amount in your milliliters, we should be making 1 gram. Okay. So that is going to be your theoretical yield for all of these. You guys calculated all your solutions based on the fact that you need to make 1 gram of chalk. Okay, so if we go back to this, then you guys will go, all right, our experimental yield, which we showed our calculations by subtracting the mass of the filter paper from the mass of the filter paper plus our product. Okay, that's our experimental. Our theoretical will be 1 gram. Okay, multiply that by 100. You guys should have 3 different percent yields for each 3 of your trials. And then the last part of your guys' calculations is you guys are also going to want to show how you guys did an average percent yield. Okay. You guys all know how to do averages. You guys add up all 3 of them, and then you guys are going to divide by 3. You guys should come up with a final percent yield for that. Okay? So that's your calculation bullet. Super easy calculations. Nothing you guys should have to really labor over too hard. We've already done the stoichiometry for this unit. That was back in our proposal, so you guys shouldn't be doing any of that. Just your percent yield is what you're focusing on there. Again, that's your guys' learning target and success criteria is that you have the ability to calculate percent yield in a lab. Okay? Next one, you guys are going to look at your specific reaction, the cost per gram to make chalk using your procedure and reactants. So again, take a look back at what you guys did with your guys' business proposal. You guys did the data table that had a cost per gram. Okay, take a look at your cost per mole, cost per gram. You guys are going to reiterate that point in your final business proposal. Again, I've corrected those, so if you guys did something wrong on that, make sure you get help or make the changes. Okay, next one, 3 data tables. Again, let's talk about that. We're only doing the 2. We're going to do this first bullet point and this second bullet point. Okay, this is really easy. your first bullet point, you guys are going to take and just make that data table that I was referring to earlier. This is in your data section. Okay, you're going to have trial 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then your average. Okay, and then you guys are just going to tell me what your percent yield is for each of these. Okay, percent yield, percent yield, percent yield. Basically, you guys are just taking what you did in your calculation section and organizing that into a data table. So this is your data table, and then your guys' average goes right in there. Your average is what's going to go on to make the difference as far as making your guys' final decision on what is the best reaction to use for this business. Okay, so you guys will take your average then. Okay, this is your first data table. That's the first of the two. Make that look nice. Okay, that's going to be one thing I definitely would look at as your boss, is that you made this look nice. Okay, for your guys' class data table though, you guys are going to go in and take your percent yield. I've shared with you guys, double check. Oops. I will share with you guys this data table. So what it has is just your guys' average percent yield split up by class. You guys can see the 9 different reactions you guys were assigned there. So what you guys will do is, once you've gotten your percent yield, as soon as you guys get your percent yield, so before you guys get through finishing all these bullet points, once you've done your calculations, please go in and enter your guys' percent yield into this. You guys have your names written out, okay? Your names are going to disappear for your guys' final data report. But what I want you guys to do is go through, and I want you guys to add in your guys', so Clara and Haley in third period would go in and put in our average percent yield was 86.54. They type that data in next to the name. You know, fourth period, Shawnee and Jess, they've got 102.7. Vicente and Maddie, for their reaction, calcium acetate and sodium carbonate, they got 79.45. Okay, so I want you guys to plug in. Once you guys have a full data table, which you guys should be able to get that by Tuesday, everyone make sure you plug in your percent yield Monday. Okay, by Tuesday, everyone should have filled this out. What you guys can go ahead and do is, maybe one person could go ahead and calculate this out for me if they trust that. But for each reaction, what you guys will do for this final lab table, the third data table, should reflect the cost necessary for each reaction to make 1 gram of chalk. Scratch that. We're just going to do class data. We're going to have just a class data table that reflects the 9 different reactions, and then class averages for percent yield each. Okay? So you guys will have to go through and calculate your own. I'm not going to make one person do it for the rest. So nothing should be filled out in this group category. That's just something you guys will do on your own. Okay? So your guys' final data table for that section will be, have your 9 reactions. You guys can copy and paste off there. That's fine. So on and so forth. Whoa, hello. Okay? And then you guys should have your, so that'll be your first part, your first column. And then you guys will have your class average percent yield. So you guys have anywhere from 2 to 3 pieces of data to formulate percent yield for the classes for that. So, we added up, we took, let's see here. We took, this thing really hates me. All right, we took for ammonium or calcium acetate and ammonium carbonate, we added Clara's and Haley's. We added CJ and Caden's. That was the only 2 groups that did that reaction. We added those 2, found the average. That's the data that's going to go into that second data table. We'll talk about the third data table. There might be another one that I need to look over, but we'll do that when we get back if we need to. Okay, so those are your guys' 2 data tables. Again, that's pretty simple. Then you guys are going to start looking at the last 2 bullets. Okay, this should be enough to get you guys through Monday and Tuesday and then some. Thorough analysis of class data to determine the most cost-effective reaction to produce chalk. When we did our proposal, the only thing we could look at was the cost. Okay, what did we pay for these chemicals? How much is that going to look like to make the chalk out of these 9 reactions? That was the only thing you guys had to add to that. But today now you guys will have some percent yield to add to those. So you guys will take a look at, all right, who had the highest percent yield? Does the percent yield even make a difference? Okay, do they all have similar percent yields? That's up to you guys to determine, as long as you support your answer with numbers. Okay, you guys shouldn't be saying that. When I was reading your business proposals, a lot of people said, oh, this reaction's the cheapest, but no one ever gave me numbers to prove that. If I were your boss and I were reading that, I would throw it out, because you guys didn't actually say that. It sounds like an opinion. It shouldn't be an opinion. It should be based on fact. With facts, you need numbers. Okay, so use those numbers from your guys' data, your guys' calculations, stuff like that. So if you guys, for instance, had the cheapest reaction, okay, was what sodium? Your cheapest reaction should have been calcium chloride and sodium carbonate, if you guys looked at the price of those, assuming you guys calculated those correctly. But if you guys are looking at this and trying to do your final business report, if that always gave you a percent yield less than 50%, that's not going to be the one you guys are going to want to use. It doesn't matter if it's the cheapest, if it's not giving you guys a good yield. So you use those two factors between cost and percent yield to determine your guys' analysis of what you think is going to be the best strategic move in this business. Okay, and then finally, you guys need a summary of at least 3 possible errors and how they specifically would have changed your data or your yields. Propose a viable method to improve the experiment if you were to do it again. Okay, again, the biggest thing I can stress to you guys is when you're doing percent yield, you need to tell me specifically how they're affecting your percent yield. So are they raising your experimental yield and raising your percent yield because of it? Are they lowering your experimental yield, which lowers your percent yield? Those kinds of things. And then the biggest thing is, do not forget to propose a viable method to improve the experiment if you were to do it again. Okay? Again, how do you guys think that change that you would make would affect your guys' percent yield? So that's basically it. I'll be back on Wednesday. You guys have the rest of today, which is plenty of time to at least get through your guys' calculation section. Okay? If anything, I want you guys to do that section first. Okay? Go back up to this calculation section. That's underlined right there. Get your calculation section done so I can see your guys' percent yield. Okay? Go in, plug in your percent yield. That way, we're not waiting on you, because if we have to wait on you, I'm going to throw that piece of your data out, and then you guys will get docked in your grade for that. Remember, this is all for a assessment grade, so it is 75% of your grade. I think I'm still going to grade it on a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale. You guys can see you have a rubric on the back of this sheet. Okay, so please reference that so you have an idea. Okay, once you guys get your percent yield calculations done, you guys can go ahead and work on your polish, starting to build this, doing your final balanced equation, written correctly, states of matter, your guys' polish procedure showing changes that you've made from my suggestions and the edits that you guys wrote as you went along. Okay, the calculations used to determine the experimental yield, theoretical yield, and percent yield, that's the biggest one I want you to do first. And then you guys can start working on these 2 things here. Okay. By Tuesday, you should have at least those first 4 bullets done, if not starting to work on that. So let's get that. So by Tuesday, before you guys come into my class Wednesday and Thursday, before I get back, those 4 bullet points need to be complete. Okay? At this time, you guys will go ahead. Elena can Miss Nelson can hand back your guys' edited business proposals that I left for you, and you guys can get to work on those things. Yeah, that should be it. If you guys need this video, it's on my homework page, so you guys can reference it there. I hope everything turned out clearly, because I'm probably not going to watch this again. I hope you guys have a good Monday and Tuesday, and I will see you Wednesday.